Recently, like many of you nerds, I've been playing around with ChatGPT. The possibility of these new AI technologies, still said to be in their early stages, is both exciting and concerning. With that said, before we're all doomed to utter extinction or a dystopian hellscape in which we're condemned to a wretched life of total subservience to our AI overlords, I figure we may as well use it productively to help learn a language. Here are some ways I've thought of and tested that I think are the most useful for learning a language. 1. Content recommendations. The majority of my language learning was and still is consuming a lot of media in my target language. Films, TV dramas, YouTube channels, podcasts, books, etc. The key to getting really good in a language is consuming a lot of this type of content, but there remains the issue of constantly having to find new content that interests you to watch or read. Using chat AI software can make this a lot easier. For example, if there's a TV show I really enjoyed, I can just ask, recommend me TV shows similar to, and it will list a bunch of similar shows. You can also specify how many you want it to recommend, so you can get however many recommendations you want. This can be used in many ways. Maybe you're a fan of horror films and you want to find the best horror films in your target language, or maybe there's a certain author you like and you want to find similar authors. The possibilities are limitless. 2. Plot synopses. Although consuming visual media is a great way to achieve a high language ability, if you're not at the advanced stage yet, it can be easy to lose track of the story of whatever you're watching. When this happens, it can be helpful to look over a plot synopsis to keep up. Not only does this make it more enjoyable to watch, since you know what's going on, but it helps you pick up the language quicker by making your input more comprehensible. Although you can often find plot synopses on sites like Wikipedia, oftentimes it's either like 3 words or the size of a book, and there are some media whose plot you can't find at all. This is where the AI is particularly useful. You can control the level of detail you want in the responses. 3. Pronunciation and kanji readings. This one's pretty self-explanatory, so I won't spend too long on it, but suffice to say that the AI makes it easier for Japanese and Chinese learners to find out the reading of a certain word or symbol. Sure, you can use Google, but see how Google likes it when you give it a whole list full of words you need the reading for. Even in many languages with phonetic-based writing systems like English, the way you say a word doesn't necessarily match its spelling. You can easily ask for the reading and even request more detail if it's not quite clear. 4. Corrections. Again, not much to say here, but whether it's a single sentence or a full essay, you don't always have a native speaker on hand to correct your output. Luckily, the AI can make corrections with surprising accuracy. 5. Word definitions and sentence explanations. Using a monolingual dictionary, thereby learning words only through your target language, is believed by many immersion learners to be an important step in building proficiency. Sometimes the definitions are just way too complicated though. This can be overcome simply by requesting an easier definition of the word. Since many words have multiple definitions depending on the context they're used in, it's best to put in an example sentence and ask for the definition of the word in that specific context. This concept can be applied to sentences and even paragraphs too, not just the meanings of individual words. For example, sometimes there'll be a sentence you just can't wrap your head around even if you know the words. In this case, you can just ask what the sentence means in simpler language. This works with paragraphs too, naturally. 6. Cultural knowledge. One of the most difficult aspects of learning a foreign language that people often overlook is the cultural aspect. This can include many things from pop culture to politics to signs and symbols and even gestures. For example, if you grew up in an English-speaking country, even if you've no interest in history, you probably at least roughly have an idea who Julius Caesar or King Henry VIII were, and even if you don't know much about movies, you probably know and even could quote famous films like Back to the Future or The Godfather. Since there are many times in media and even in daily conversation when these cultural and historical references are assumed to be understood, this can cause difficulty if you don't have this knowledge. Again, much of this will come naturally through immersion, but if there's ever a reference you don't understand, the AI can explain it in as much detail as you want. Even if there's cultural information you're not familiar with in the explanation itself, you can ask for a simple explanation of that to get a bigger picture. 7. What to say, how to say something. For the final recommendation, I wouldn't recommend using this too much since immersion will eventually take care of this for the most part. But you can ask what to say or how to say something in specific situations. I recently moved to Japan, and although I reached a relatively high level in Japanese and can usually express my thoughts well enough, there are still some basic situations in which I wasn't exactly sure what to say. As an example, I recently had to call back a number I got a missed call from, and I wasn't exactly sure what to say when they pick up the phone. This is where the AI comes in handy. It gives you a list of potential phrases you could use for that specific situation. Of course, it's better to learn these types of things through immersion in order to use it more naturally, but this can be useful in certain situations when you really need to use the language for a purpose urgently. The tips I've given in this video are only a few ways to use AI for language learning. I'm sure there are many more. It can be good to try and experiment yourself to find what works for you, but I hope anyone watching this nonetheless found some of my suggestions helpful and can put it to good use. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more language-related videos.